Yo, welcome to another tutorial with Sketty. This time we're going to be looking at the original Reese Bass sound from the track by Kevin Saunderson called Just Want Another Chance, and also made popular in that tune by The Renegade, which I don't think I can say the track name title on YouTube because reasons. But yeah, we're going to be looking at this in Ableton Live in 4 different synths: Wavetable, Serum, Vital and Phase Plant. I'll be leaving the presets in the description. I also stream live on Twitch during the week and on Sundays as well, so if you want to check me out on there. We also have a great community. All of the links to that are in the description. If you like this video and want to see any cool new future content, leave a comment, also like, subscribe, all that kind of YouTube jazz. But yeah, let's get into it. So first of all, we're going to look at this bass in Wavetable, then we're going to be looking at it in Serum, then we're going to be looking at it in Vital, and also we're going to be looking at it in Phase Plant as well, and hearing the slight differences that you might find with this kind of bass in all of the different synths. So yeah, the first thing that we're going to do with Wavetable, we're just going to obviously look at the actual sound itself and then sort of deconstruct it and what it's actually made of. So basically it's 3 different oscillators, 1 sub-oscillator and 2 main oscillators that are causing the movement of the sound. So first of all, we have a sub-oscillator. Now in Wavetable you can only have it as a sine wave, so it's just a sine wave sub, and I've set the octave to -1. In oscillator 1 and 2, this is where the crux of the sound really happens, and they're both triangle waves, and I've set these an octave above the sub. So with the sub being at -1, and then oscillator 1 and 2 being at 0 semitones, which basically puts them an octave above the sub. Now the main thing with these triangle waves is the detuning of them. So now I've set the detuning to -35 cents on oscillator 1 and 35 cents on oscillator 2, and that's what will cause that movement to happen. And also, depending on the note, the higher the pitch, the faster the movement, the lower the pitch, the slower the movement. Now these values I will credit to another YouTube called Owen Palmer. This is where I originally got this idea, but I'm taking it further and looking at this sound in lots of different synths. So yeah, I'll link to his video in the description as well, so go and check that video out. So yeah, that's the main sort of crux of the sound. The last bit of this in Wavetable is setting up a low pass filter. And also using the resonance and making sure that it's key trackable as well. So with this, I've set the filter to 12 decibels per octave as a low pass. I've set the resonance to 58% and also added a little bit of drive at this, about 6 decibels. And I've set the frequency to 460 hertz. Now this will be different slightly in different synths, obviously depending on how the synth itself processes sounds. Now the thing to make this move with the sound, I've set the MIDI and also gone to filter 1 frequency and set the note to 100%. So the note is affecting the frequency that the cutoff is set at on the filter. And with setting this to 100%, it's obviously going to move all the way through the different keys. As you can see that the cutoff is moving along with the synth. So obviously this is what this sounds like in Wavetable. I've just added the original drum beat. It's not the original sample, but I've just made something very similar. So now let's check what that sounds like in Serum. Now don't mind, this is my own sort of, well, it's not my skin, it's made by Thenerton, I think that's how you pronounce the name, but I just added the Sketty logo as well. Now I've pretty much done exactly the same thing in Serum, but instead of having just a sine wave sub, I've added another triangle wave. So again, -1 octave on the sub, 2 basic shapes, they're both triangle waves and they're both set to 0 octave, so these are now spaced an octave apart from the sub oscillator. I've made sure that the random phase is all down to 0, so it always starts from the same point in the waveform. And again, I've set the fine tune to -35 and 35. Now with this one, I've set the filter to MG low 12 and applied it to oscillator A, B and the sub, and then key tracked it. I've set the cutoff to 353 hertz and the drive to around 32% and the resonance to 42%. So now let's hear what that sounds like. So it's pretty similar to the Wavetable. Next we'll move on to Vital. Now I did notice with Vital this one sounds actually quite considerably different. When we listen to these isolated away from the drum beat, you'll hear what I'm talking about. But again, I've just set up the sort of same 3 oscillators. A triangle at -12, which is basically -1 octave. Again, set the phase, random phase to 0%. I set another 2 oscillators at 0 semitones, so they're an octave above the sub, -35 and 35 cents. Again, setting the randomized phase to 0%. And then with the filter, I've applied it to oscillator 1, 2, and 3. Set the key track all the way to 100%. And also set the cutoff to 453 Hz. And the resonance to about 56%. Now, I didn't really use the drive on this filter, but instead just added a bit more compression in single band mode. I pretty much left the settings as they were, but I turned this up slightly. So really, this is where I found that the drive in this filter actually caused them, not issues, but changed the sound considerably. So if we just grab the MIDI pattern and then play this back in Vital. With this sound, I found Vital was the most chunky in sound. It seems to saturate the frequencies the most, and I think it's basically down to this filter. Even when I turn the compressor off, this filter seems to sort of make the sound a lot more saturated. So yeah, the next sound that we're going to move on to is Phase Plant. Again, this is just 3 oscillators with a filter, and I'm using a limiter just to sort of stop any peaking happening or clipping. So we have another triangle wave. This one's set to -12 semitones, so this is acting as the sub. Then we have another 2 triangle waves that are an octave above, and I've just set the detuning 35 cents and minus 35 cents there and 35 cents there. And with a filter, I've used note to allow this to key track on the cutoff, so I just applied notes to there and set the cutoff to 761 Hz and the Q to 1.642. Now these, I actually found the numbers quite different compared to the other synths, but I found each synth processes, especially with the filter, quite differently. So again, this is what this one sounds like. Now at the moment, these with the drum beat do sound quite similar, but if we just isolate these out, and I'm just going to cut these because it's basically the same pattern every single bar. Let's just turn that off, and then with Vital. So what we're going to do is we're going to mute the drum beat, and it's going to start with Wavetable for a bar, then it's going to go into Serum, then Vital, and then Phase Plant. Now I'm going to stop talking for a minute so you can listen and hear the sound difference. Now, as you can hear, they are quite similar, but the one that I find that stands out the most as a different sound is Vital. I find Wavetable and Serum are pretty similar to each other. Vital seems to be quite saturated in sound, and then Phase Plant has a little bit of saturation as well. Now, each of these sounds to me, they sound really good, and I would use all 4 of them in a track. I do prefer Serums the most, but Serum is pretty much my favourite synth to use. Now, obviously, it's up to you guys to make a decision on what sound that you like the most. Obviously, if you're an Ableton Live user, you do have access to Wavetable. If you don't, then you're going to have to use something like Serum, Vital, or Phase Plant instead. So yeah, you guys get to decide. Maybe in the comments, let me know which sound do you like the most. Is it Phase Plant's version, Vital's version, Serum's version, or Wavetable's version? So obviously, these are just basing the sound around the original Reese Bass. Now, it's a really, really cool sound, and it's something that can be used for any types of music, really. But obviously, I recommend making the sound your own as well, instead of just emulating exactly another sound. This is something I talk to students about, and especially on my Twitch stream, instead of just trying to copy a sound, you taking it and applying your own direction to it and seeing where you can take it so it becomes your own sound. So I'm just going to go back to Serum. And with these two here, we've got the filter and the compressor. Now, this is where I can really start to push the sound in a different direction if I wanted to. So if I turn the compressor on and change it to multiband mode, we're just going to listen back to this sound with the drum beat. I've muted all of the others, and all you're going to hear is Serum. So with just that multiband compressor, just messing around with the mid band and the high band, I'm now starting to get a little bit of a different tonality to it. Again, I could apply another filter to it if I wanted to. Now if I really want to get into that more pushed sound, so I can really push the drive up and the fat, that's how it's going to make it a lot more distorted. Another thing that I could do as well is with these two working together is I could turn on FM from B on oscillator A, and then that's going to cause obviously some frequency modulation and change the sound even further. So again, there's lots of different techniques you could try. I could also change the waveform. So instead of having triangle waves, let's try square waves instead. Now this is going to give a little bit, probably more of a jump up tone to it. Now this is obviously a lot more modern in sound, but just to show you a few examples of where you can take this sound instead of just obviously copying the original sound, which is a great sound, and it's something that obviously if you're not familiar with Reese basses and how to make them, then obviously start in that direction. But again, just applying different techniques like using different waveforms, different processing techniques, so on and so forth, you can really start to make the sound your own. So yeah guys, that's pretty much how to make the original Reese Bass sound in 4 different synths: Wavetable, Serum, Vital and Phase Plant. Obviously we took it a little bit further in Serum as well, adding our own sort of little sound design spin to it, taking it into jump up territory with some square waves, adding some distortion, so on and so forth. But yeah, if you like that tutorial, hit the like button, the subscribe button as well, leave a comment for any future tutorials that you'd like to see. But yeah guys, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye.
Everybody jump up, come on! Come on!